when we do a lab, there inevitably is going to be some type of error. No one is going to be able to get the perfect result every time. So, how do we get error? Where does it come from? So, some common types of error we have are human error, procedural error, instrumental error, or maybe it's just too few trials. So, if we're looking at human error, that could come in a few different forms. So, if you have a transcript error, maybe you wrote something down wrong. So you went over to the balance and you read it wrong, okay? Or you saw it right and then you wrote the incorrect number. Maybe it's an estimation issue. So I measured some estimation. I measured something and I said that it was 2.5 centimeters and my partner measured it to say it was 2.4 centimeters. Okay, so our answer isn't necessarily wrong that one person said 2.5 and one person said 2.4, but there's just an inaccuracy. There's a discrepancy in our measurement. Another thing might be a procedural error. So with a procedural error, we could maybe do different procedures. To answer the same question. But those two different procedures, because we're not doing the same thing, they provide slightly different results. And once again, that's okay too. We're trying to figure out the answer to some question. We're trying to solve some type of problem. So sometimes going about it in different ways is good because then we can compare our results and see maybe why it was different. Another thing might be an instrumental error, okay? So sometimes your instruments just get slightly off and they need to be calibrated. So instrumental, we have an inaccurate or uncalibrated. I might spell this word wrong. Don't calibrated. There might be two L's. That's why I don't teach English. I'm not good at spelling. So, inaccurate or uncalibrated instrument. So, if you take someone's temperature and every single time it's reading at 108, okay? And we know that that person's temperature, if we take it on 10 other thermometers, it's 98. Well, that inaccuracy we have to account for, okay? So maybe your thermometer is off, or your balance is off. And these things need to be accounted for. Okay. And my last one here is too few trials. I think this one's kind of the obvious answer here. Whereas if I do an experiment once, I cannot assume that that is the be-all, end-all answer. Now, in our class, unfortunately, sometimes we only have time to do it once, or the materials to do it once. But you'll have 12 other lab groups who can do that experiment, and we can compare everyone's results and see that everyone follows a similar pattern. But if we only do an experiment once, we don't have enough data to set a trend. Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at is how we write it up, and I'm going to send it over to Professor Dave.